Welcome to the Scottish Rite Journal Podcast, an audio presentation of the Scottish Rite Journal, brought to you by the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite, Southern Jurisdiction, Mother Supreme Council of the World. This week's article is President William Howard Taft, an Embodiment of Masonic Resilience by Brother Jonathan Capel, Ph.D., Master Mason, and comes from the July-August 2023 issue of the Scottish Rite Journal. In his Symbolism of Masonry, Dr. Albert Mackey praises the resilience of the cornerstone, so essential in the foundation of a building. Firmness and durability, its perfect form, and its peculiar position as the connecting link between the walls. We must attribute the important character that it has assumed in the language of symbolism. Indeed, the notion of resilience encapsulates the Freemasons' continued search for truth and moral purification despite the turbulence and vicissitudes of life. One man who embodied this resilience was the 27th President of the United States, William Howard Taft. President-elect Taft was made a Mason on site on February 18, 1909, at Kilwinning Lodge No. 356 in his birthtown of Cincinnati, Ohio. Throughout Taft's life, he struggled deeply with his weight. At one point during his presidency, 1909 to 1913, his weight exceeded 350 pounds. Sadly, this made him the target of many jokes. As James E. Watson, the House representative from Indiana, recalled, "One day I was in the president's private room when good-natured Senator Chauncey Depew came in. After we had talked serious matters for a few minutes and we were about to depart, Mr. Depew stepped up to Taft and, taking liberties that I would have never thought of taking with a president, said to him, putting his hand on Mr. Taft's big frontal development, 'What are you going to call it when it comes, Mr. President?' It was just about that time when Mr. Taft was beginning to have some difficulty with Theodore Roosevelt, and he quickly responded, 'Well, if it's a boy, I'll call it William. If it's a girl, I'll call it Theodora. But if it turns out to be just wind, I'll call it Chauncey.'" Likely due to sleep apnea, Taft also was known to fall asleep during cabinet meetings, which also attracted much attention and derision. President Taft's many chronic illnesses made visitations and long-distance communication with more than 30 physicians, including Sir William Osler, a regular occurrence through his life. Yet despite his health issues, Brother Taft remained diligent in his legal work and successfully lost much of the weight he had gained during his presidency, a feat that was well publicized in the media at the time. Taft's struggles with his health were deeply rooted in his appreciation for healthcare as well as a continuation of his ideals as a Freemason. Throughout his political career and tenure as president, Taft pursued several healthcare policies and public health initiatives to improve the lives of Americans despite, or perhaps because of, the enormous political and social challenges of his day. His legacy lives on in many of the public health initiatives and child labor protection laws we now take for granted. A glimpse of Taft's perspective on the purpose of Freemasonry, as well as his focus on the well-being of society, can be found in his 150th anniversary address at St. John's Lodge, No. 1 at Newark, New Jersey, on May 13, 1911. President Taft argued that Masonry aims at the promotion of morality and higher living by the cultivation of the social side of man, the rousing in him of the instincts of charity and the love of his kind. It rests surely on the foundation of the brotherhood of man and the fatherhood of God. Brother Taft followed this statement referencing the ideals of the progressive era, stating that the United States is a people who have learned the lessons of self-restraint, without which popular government cannot be a success, but a people who still have the progressive spirit, prompting them to seek improvement where improvement may be possible, but with the capacity for that second, sober thought which bids them adhere to their ancient institutions as long as they serve them well. A famous picture of Taft with his Masonic regalia while holding the trowel represents Taft's embodiment of resilience. The trowel, of course, is the implement used by operative Masons to spread the cement that unites a building into one common mass. But Freemasons are taught to use it for the noble and glorious purpose of spreading the cement of brotherly love and affection. The trowel, like the cornerstone or trestle board, lays the foundation for creating a structure that is resilient and tough enough to maintain the bonds of the various components of its structure. For Masons, this symbolizes the resilience of the brotherhood of Freemasonry in the midst of social and political upheaval. Thus, Taft's policies and focus on public health reflected his notion that easing the suffering of his fellow citizens had larger societal implications. Brother Taft's personal difficulties with health, and particularly weight, mirrored other challenges in his life. He came in third in his quest as an incumbent for a second term for the presidency, behind the future president Woodrow Wilson and his one-time ally Theodore Roosevelt, who ran as a Bull Moose Party candidate. Yet he later triumphed in public life. For this former judge, Secretary of War, Governor General of the Philippines, and Provisional Governor of Cuba became the only president to sit on the U.S. Supreme Court, serving as Chief Justice from July 11, 1921 to February 3, 1930. While his health problems continued after his presidency, he also lost much weight and lived to the age of 72. It can be stated with certitude that President and Chief Justice William Howard Taft's resilience through political defeats and health challenges, as well as his commitment to the common good, reflect the most salient characteristics as a Freemason. Like and share this article, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you wish to comment, please leave one, and as a reminder, hit the notifications bell. Any accompanying photographs or citations for this article can be found in the corresponding print edition. The Scottish Rite Journal is published by the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite, Southern Jurisdiction, Mother Supreme Council of the World. Mark Dreisenstock, 32nd degree, KCCH, Managing Editor. I'm your host, Matt Bowers.